Welcome to the Rock You Podcast for authors, coaches, thought leaders, and speakers. Are you ready to share your message with a bigger audience and create a better world? It's time to see you, be you, rock you. With a goal of helping those who help others succeed. Here are your hosts, Ronnie Tsunami and Benjamin Typhoon
Aloha,
Chatsoon.
welcome to the Rock You Podcast. I'm Ronnie Tsunami.
And I'm Benjamin Chatsoon.
We have a very special guest with us, a very good friend of mine, Ruth Wishengrad. Ruth is on a mission to build a world of confident kids so that no kid or inner kid is left behind feeling bullied, depressed, or with low self-esteem. Having personally experienced depression and being bullied, Ruth developed simple, easy, and fun programs incorporating music and movement to empower kids to feel confident from the inside out. Ruth has been teaching, training, and mentoring individuals for over 30 years, and now trains teachers and coaches to teach self-confidence and growth mindset to empower children. Welcome, Ruth.
Thank you. Great
Welcome,
to be here. Hi,
For
Ben.
all transparency, Ruth and I have known each other for years, since 2015. Although I think, Ruth, it's actually earlier than. I could be wrong, but I'm thinking it's earlier. We met in Las Vegas at a special coaches type of event, and she struck me as super compassionate, especially around kids. She's got a program. We're going to talk more about the self-talk songs and really about self-confidence in general. But Ruth, self-confidence is really big right now, but what brought you into this years ago on the topic of self-confidence and self-empowerment?
So I was an elementary school teacher and I taught for years, and I would have one classroom of kids every year, and I taught in the inner city schools and I taught in the suburbs. And I always felt like there's got to be another way, a bigger way to reach more kids. So that's when I went behind the scenes of teaching and I started to work on curriculum for parents, for teachers and for educators and for kids, and wanted to find a way to reach out in a broader audience. So I've always felt that self-confidence is a really important topic. I, as a child, had a lot of bullying, a lot of self-confidence issues myself, and my feeling has always been, I did not want somebody else. When I learned how to move beyond that fear and that feeling of I can't do it, when I learned how to move beyond that, my passion and my goal was to make sure that nobody ever had to feel that way, or that they had strategies and tools and tips and all that stuff to put in their tool belt to learn ways to get beyond that themselves. And I wanted to be able to be the one to present that to the world.
You know, as a kid growing up, I moved around a lot because I was a military brat. So naturally, when you move to a new school, you get hit with all types of issues, making new friends, trying to adjust to maybe a new environment altogether in terms of your city that you're in. So there's a lot that goes on, and I understand self-talk songs works with kids. So what is it that drew you to that younger age group? Because correct me if I'm wrong, your age group for working with kids is around that 4, 5 years old plus, right? But not into the 10 or 11-year-olds.
Right. So I was a first and second grade teacher, so I kind of gravitate towards that kind of area. And I did a lot of testing of this program in schools and in classrooms and all around. And I noticed that the age group that really was able to really connect in with it was really about 4 to 7, 8 years old. I think beyond that, sometimes kids got this feeling of that peer pressure, like, oh, this might feel a little too young-ish. However, it basically skips after about age 8. It skips, and then about age 20, it starts back up again. So from 20 on until adulthood, and I had somebody in her who was 90 years old who loved this program. So there's just some of that stuff that goes on in the classroom. However, I've been told by many homeschool parents that their homeschool kids 12, 13, 14, even 17 years old, that maybe have some learning disabilities or need some extra support, that it works for them. So it's hard to kind of put a age right on it because everybody's different.
Ben,
Yes,
I have a
Ronnie.
hard time imagining you as a kid. Like I
got a
because-
picture I can show it to you. Hold on.
do you have a picture? I
do.
dare you.
It's not sitting on my desk. I'd have to go find it for you. Sorry.
No, because you always have, as I tell people, you have this language mastery, right? That I'm envious of, because you tend to put things together that I would have never really thought of. But as a kid, were you pretty confident in the way you were? Because I know I was very unconfident.
Not at all. Not at all. No, I've gone back and forth with it in life. I can remember, not childhood. You know, I grew up without a father around, so there was a lot of lack of awareness around a lot of topics. Confidence was never one of those things that was inherently instilled in me. It was kind of like fear of the world kind of stuff, and be careful with everything, and don't hurt everybody's feelings, and be tiptoe, and always, you might say, always being a victim to everything that ever happened. I can tell you that, when I worked for AT&T Bell South, the phone company, from 1999 to 2011, and after 2011, when I departed there, it was not the best of terms that I left on, you might say, and it was a real terrible ending, to a long career. And if you can imagine, like, working an entire career and then being thrust out into the unknown, and not knowing what you were going to do next, and having had probably one of the best positions in the industry with one of the best companies, like, everything else from that, there's like a downgrade. On top of that, carrying shame around about how things ended, it's hard to kind of have confidence after that point. But I started doing some of the personal development work, you might say transformational type of stuff. And I remember so I departed in March of 2011. And then about 2012, at the end of 2012, I remember I went to a BNI networking meeting, and I was a notary, and I was doing mobile loan closings as a notary. And I've been doing that for years. So I was confident in that, right? But I remember leaving that meeting, and I was becoming aware of my way of being with the work that I was doing. Wasn't aware of, like, what's called way of being before that. So I was testing different things about, as far as embodying new ways of being. And I remember this one time I left that BNI meeting, and I showed up powerfully in the meeting, but there was an element of confidence that was not present for me. And I thought about it on the way out, and I was like, when I worked at AT&T in Bell South, I was really, really, really good at what I did. Really, really good at what I did. I was really, really, really confident at it. And I thought to myself, I'm like, what happened to that? What happened to the confidence I used to have? And I'm like, was it the job, or was it who I was? So I said, well, let me think about that. And I was learning about stepping into new spaces, right? So I actually envisioned the word confidence on the ground in front of me, and I stepped into it, and it was like a
Wait, you stepped into, like, you literally did a visualization,
yeah,
and stepped into confidence.
Yeah, it's exactly what I did, because I was learning new meditations and new things about the mind and things like that. And it was like, step into a new space. Every moment you can step into a new space. So I was identifying ways of being that I was missing, or I thought I was missing, ways of being that I needed to start taking on in order to start straightening out my life. Confidence was one of those things. I was literally in the parking lot, coming outside of the network meeting, and I was like, man, what happened? And I'm like, self-confident. And I actually saw the word. It wasn't written on the ground, but I saw the word on the ground, and I stepped into it. And what was funny about it is the girl that I was dating at the time and the people that I was on a team with in like a leadership community, they immediately noticed it. Like, it was a complete, like, I stepped into it. Like,
No, how old were you?
Not 5.
Not 5, right?
No,
and that's my point, right? As a
33.
okay, 33. and I built confidence. I was in the military, and actually even in high school, I had a little more confidence because I was in student council and all those type of things where you're ROTC. So I did get a little more confidence boost that way. But I never thought about it. At my age, even as a teenager, you kind of expect some of that. You kind of expect it when you grow up, right? You learn it the hard way, but you were able to pull it out of that because of your ability to logically think about where you're at, where you were, and analyze the situation. But Ruth, what gets me is you're teaching kids at age 4, and I'm wondering, because Ben, you said you grew up without a father, right? Often fathers would teach to be that confident kind of person. Don't be a pansy, whatever. Stick up for yourself, right? They kind of prop you up, and you kind of follow their model. So, but then, Ruth, because one of the first things people will ask is, how do you teach confidence to kids? Because so maybe explain more about what the self-talk program does.
Right. Well, so I totally appreciate what you're saying, Ben, about actually like stepping into confidence. I think I love your visualization. That is cool. I actually had an issue in 2009 when I was stuck in a job that I didn't like. I was a graphic designer, a website designer, and I was stuck in this job that was just not moving me forward, and I didn't like it. And I took a leap of faith to kind of say, all right, this is it. And I did a deep dive into personal development myself. Started in 2009, and that's what actually got me to California. I had no idea what I was going to do when I got here. And the interesting thing was, you say, how did I come up with this to teach this to kids? Well, it started with me. I had to feel that confidence within me first, because this was a big transition. I was leaving my family, my friends. I had lived in the Boston area for most of my life, except for college, right? And all of a sudden, I'm coming out to California. I knew nobody, didn't know what I was going to do. And I was kind of like, oh. And slowly, I started to with this deep dive into personal development, I started to feel more confident. And then it was like, okay, what am I going to do? When I decided that singing was something that I really wanted to pursue, the little voices inside said, who the heck are you? Like, really? And because my whole life, people told me when I wanted to sing, they would say, why don't you do that in the car or in the shower?
Sing in the shower.
Yeah, you do your thing. And so that I didn't feel like that was something I was able to do. So walking on the beach and allowing myself to have that space. And then there was a time where I was like, oh, I can do this. And, I get the motivation, the Tony Robbins kind of, okay, just muscle yourself through that motivation, right? And it occurred to me, that big aha, it occurred to me, well, wait a minute. I can keep saying over and over again, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it. But guess what? I wasn't believing it, put that smile on your face, but not believe it. And eventually I said, well, what is it that's missing? And boom, the word confidence. It was confidence that was missing. And then within a day or two, this song showed up that was, I am confident. And I started repeating that and like, oh, so if I am able to feel confident first, then telling myself I can do it, I'm going to believe it. And then I put my teacher hat on and went, well, if it works for me, it's got to work for kids. Because I'm a kid, we're all we all have our little
inner child
within us, right? So I was like, if it works for me, I'm going to go test it out with kids. And when I was a teacher, it was always, I had a lot of other teachers who would say, oh, you have to teach kind of to their level. And I kind of felt, you know what, I'm going to teach. And yes, I'm going to teach to their level. Yes. But if they don't understand something, I'm going to teach them how to ask how I don't understand it. And I'm going to talk to them in a way that they can understand bigger concepts. And it worked. And then I was like, okay, well, it works for me. It works for kids. Now let's get some proof. Let's get some scientific proof. So I reverse engineered it and found all this amazing data that is showing that what you repeat repeats, and it is actually rewiring your brain.
Well, you touched on something earlier, and you kind of like just capped it off right there. A lot of times in personal development, we hear that saying, "Fake it till you make it," and I think that gets misconstrued by a lot of people because everybody has their own filters and they hear things the way they want to hear things. We've all been in relationships. You say one thing, they hear something else. It just happens with people, right? But what I've learned over the years, when it was the confidence thing was part of it. I think fake it till you make it has been misused because a lot of times, especially in our materialistic society, it's a lot of people going to buy stuff and flash and show off before they have the money. And it's like they try to fake that until they actually make it to success. I think it's a more appropriate use of it. Not fake it, but embody it until it shows up.
I agree.
Because it's not about what you're doing. It's about who and how you're being. So if it's not even faking it, it's just acknowledging what's out at the moment, what's missing, what you have access to. We have access to it all internally because I've become aware of it. So I like faking it till you make it in the ways of being. Like if you're missing confidence, as you're saying, fake it, repeat it, do it over and over again, say it over and over again until it catches. And it's a much better way to use it.
Yes, I totally agree. And I think the piece that was missing for me was that I can do it. If I kept saying I could do it, something wasn't feeling right. Like it's tapping in and checking in with your feelings. Something was feeling like I was glossing over something else. And that's when I had to check in and go, okay, what's missing? Why? I've been repeating this over and over again, and it doesn't feel right because there was an underlying and my whole program really focuses on confidence as the foundation. Because when you have that foundation of confidence, when you learn how to rely on your confidence and learn how to understand that you're in a growth mindset and that things aren't fixed and you can move through stuff, then it allows for that bigger advancement. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And it's brilliant because I've said when I've worked with people, because with all the stuff Ronnie says I'm good at, I'm really, when I had my own coaching practice and I work with people, I'm really good at helping them identifying the underlying stories that are generating their experience. It's a lot like if you're gardening, you're trying to change the flowers on top. You're trying to just change the top. But if you never get down to the root or the foundation, as you were saying, then it doesn't matter what you're trying to do. Like that's one of the issues with just doing, as you were saying, just doing the affirmations. There's no healing of underneath. There's no root change.
Exactly. And I don't think that we get really, the program doesn't go into some of that root stuff with the kids, although it does. There's one of the sections that I did add into the program was all about mistakes, because, it's okay to make mistakes. And in fact, we even celebrate and cheer when we make a mistake so that we can learn that, okay, that means I just grew another inch, I just grew a little bit more because I made a mistake and I know I'm learning from that and I'm learning from it so I can grow, because it's all about that growth mindset. I don't know about you, both of you, when you were growing up, did you feel like, that if you did something and you got it wrong, oh, that was it? You're done. Like this fixed kind of mindset. Did you have that, Ronnie? Did you have that, Ben?
At one time, I would say yes. I even heard a great saying the other day. I've never heard it. And I love language. And when I heard this, I was like, it makes sense, because when you kind of just move words around, it changes the meaning. They said, we don't make mistakes. Mistakes make us. They form us. Our mistakes form who we are. So yes, I've been on both sides of what you're talking about. What about you, Ronnie?
Yeah, I had to learn to accept those mistakes as, evolving, but I definitely, as a child, I don't know about you guys, but if I got a C, for instance, as a grade, I was scared. I was shaking in my bed, hiding under the blanket, hoping my father doesn't come home, or my mother doesn't tell him that I got a C, right? So my confidence was dictated almost by my parents in many ways. And so I think some of that still comes to till today, right? It's come with me as always trying to excel, like I'm trying to prove something for people to do. And confidence wise, I wonder, right? Because that's why I said there are issues that I face as an adult, and I wonder, gosh, if I had training as a kid, and you do dance and movement, you do obviously the songs themselves, the singing, the repetition. You have all these elements that make it more fun. And it'd be curious to see this in 20 years, the movement and how confidence building as a child, even at age 4 to 7, the impact it's had for them as teens as well as in adulthood.
Right.
It's interesting you say that, Ronnie, because I was thinking this while you and Ruth were talking earlier. I was thinking, because I'm always looking at environmental reasons why things are happening, and the questions that come up for me is like a lot of kids don't have confidence, so it's a great thing that you're doing. The questions is like for me is like, for kids that have an issue with confidence, your tools, you give them to the parents and the teachers, I assume. More teachers, it sounds like. But what if the parents are working against that? Not knowingly, like unconsciously working against, which is causing a lot of the lack of confidence in the kid, which, to be fair, a lot of the times it's exactly what's happening, right? How do you negotiate that? How do you navigate that?
I am so glad you brought that up, Ben. I mean, that is the crux of it. This is one of the things that is one of my biggest feelings. Yes, teach it in the schools, totally important. When the child comes home, it needs to get supported and reinforced at home as well. Because what is battling against, it's the parent's inner child that has its way of being, of how they were taught, and they were taught, generations, gone by. So it's creating this language, this common language. Let me tell you a quick little story. I had because we do this in homeschooling as well, in all different varieties. And I had a parent actually say to me, why is it that when I listen to the music, I start to cry? I'm watching my kids interact with it and I start to cry. And I said, well, it's probably because your inner kid needs to hear some of these messages that are in the songs. She said, wow, that makes sense. And then a couple weeks later, she comes back to me and she said, I have to tell you the funniest thing that happened. And I said, okay, what's that? And she said, well, my kid was having a problem with something and my kid said, I can't. And I ended up going to her and saying, you can do it. Yes, you can do it. I think you can. I know you can. So that's one of the songs, obviously. And they just started laughing, and it like broke the stress that was going on around it. And it was totally easy. And it was a common language, right? So then a week later, she says to me, somehow or other, her kid heard her say, I can't do this. And the kid goes, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it to the parent. So the language had formed and they were working together.
It's great. It's great.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like there's a state change along with the language. Is that kind of the formula?
Well, so part of it is so the way that the program works, or the way that any of this works, and like Ronnie said before, it's simple, easy, and fun. When you do those three things, it's like magic. So what happens is you pump up that energy, you're creating that energy, and you're crossing the center line, you're your whole body and motions, and you're singing, you're dancing, and everything is now anchoring deeper into your body because it's joy, it's fun, right? And that part gets anchored in as the fun part. And when you need to access this, it then shows up. So I'm going to shift and share a story of a woman who's 90 years old. And I asked her, and she loved my stuff. She bought DVDs and was handing them out to all the nursing homes and assisted livings and everything. And eventually she started listening to the DVD every day for 2 months. 2 months and 2 days later, I get a text from her. Have I got a testimonial for you? Please meet me at the rehab center. She had fallen and broken her hip. So she had been singing and enjoying this music for 2 months. And then when she fell and broke her hip, what was the first thing that she heard? Well, actually, before that, she said, I'm done. I'm in excruciating pain. My phone is 6.5 feet away. It feels like 10 miles. Just saw the kids. I'm done. And then in the next beat, she heard the song. She heard my voice and the rhythm of the music, and she was able to move herself an inch. She stopped and rested. And then the music came back in her head. It took her 2 hours, inch by inch by inch, to make it to her phone. And she felt that if she hadn't heard that, she would have been sunk. And it was the whole idea that she had juiced up that energy before and had gotten that. My feeling is she'd gotten it in her cells, and the cells kind of knew all about it instead, and her whole beingness knew about it. So when she was in dire need, it was there for her. And 4 months later, she was not only walking again, she was driving her car again.
That's spot on, because it's funny, we're just having this conversation the other day on social media, where it's all healing begins and ends in the mind. If the mind's working against the body, it makes it so much harder. It takes so much longer, and actually can work against the healing of the body. So that's an awesome testimonial. It really is.
How old was this woman?
90.
90, because at 90 years old, broken hip.
Yep.
So you're not leaving the hospital.
4 months. Her kids, she had 11 kids. And now, so a year and a half later, she did end up passing. But the transformation from that, and also the song she was singing was I Am Confident for 2 hours. She told me that she had a new relationship with her own self-confidence at 90. A completely new relationship. She was able to talk to her kids in ways she never was able to their entire lives, her entire life. You know, it was like this huge thing. Her kids came up to me at the memorial service for her and said, oh my God, that last year and a half of my mom's life was so different. We all thought she was a goner.
Do you have a version of this for adults to get in touch with their inner kid, or is it basically just designed for kids?
Well,
because it sounds like that's what happened.
Right. So the actual curriculum is designed to teach parents or teachers or coaches or whatever to implement this with children. The principles, the philosophy, the methodology can be used with anyone. I do confidence coaching with adults. We use some of these songs in that. It's the concepts, it's the principles. I worked with an exercise class with adults with Parkinson's, and we used these same principles, and it shifted their thinking, and it shifted their mindset. It shifted their way of like approaching things. And it was because it was in this playful, fun way that it shows up when you least expect it. I mean, let's dial back a second. How many times have you ever gotten songs stuck in your head?
All the time.
Right? Well, what if now the songs that get stuck in your head are the songs that can actually help you? And that's how I kind of, I used to get other people's songs stuck in my head I'd wake up in the middle of the night and I'd have this lyric in my head and I didn't know the rest of the lyric or anything. And it would be like, the radio in my head would be going. I finally learned to write it down, the lyric, so that I could go back to sleep. Because 9 times out of 10, when I would look at that lyric when I woke up, it had to do with something that was going on in my life that actually was helping solve an issue or give me insight into what was happening. And these were other people's songs. So I said, well, why use other people's? Let me create things that will make me feel good and move me forward and make me feel empowered and in a place of, growth.
It's great.
I know you've just launched this program. It's been in development for years. You just launched it. Was it a month ago? Has it been a month already?
It's hard to know.
A month or a few weeks ago. And obviously I've been working with you at least for the past 2 years on things and working on this program as well. So I have a little more information, obviously, on it. But I'm so excited to see this in school because, in a school, it's one thing for parents and homeschool parents. Yes, this is perfect, right? It's got the curriculum right there. It's got the music. How many songs are there altogether, Ruth?
There are 15 songs and 2 bonus songs.
So within the program.
I'm sorry. That's something different. The program has 7 songs.
Got it. And then you have a media kit that's available.
A media kit that has extra
multimedia
songs that aren't in the program. Exactly.
And so with all the songs, like I said, I've heard them, and so I have them stuck in my head as well. For it, so I know the impact it can make, and for homeschooling, it's great. But for school as well, I'd be curious. I so want to find out if anyone's listening out there that has access to a school principal or superintendent or a district. It would be so cool to see this with one grade, right? If you see a 2nd grade class or a 3rd grade class, and you see the difference, because obviously you can see kids progress, right, from one level as they move up, and to see the difference, almost a control group versus.
Well, and actually to follow them and to see how, if there's somebody out there that knows about having to do research and to be able to follow kids for a certain, 3-5 years, something like that, and see the effects that could have, could be really a great study. I just have another quick little story about it. In a 2nd grade classroom that I did this. I was in the classroom for 8 days. In and out for over a period of 8 days. And on the very first day, I'm teaching the song Confidence. And one of the kids was kind of a little class clownish. And, he's like, oh, and he starts, because we do confidence curls, right? And he starts bopping himself in the head and trying to be class clown about this and whatnot. And the next time I came back, he was like different. And I was like, oh, okay. And the 3rd time that I came back, I asked, who would like to volunteer to give me a testimonial? His hand shot up first. So I'll dial back just a little bit because the 2 songs that I was going to teach them were Confidence and I Can Do It. There was a 3rd song on the DVD, and the 3rd song was Timeout. And the kids saw that because they were playing the DVD, and they're like, the teacher knew that these were the 2 songs that they were supposed to listen to. And the teacher said, no, we have to wait until, Ruth comes back in the classroom because I can't, this was her program. This is what she wants to teach. As soon as I walked in the room, they're like, what is that song? We want to know about that song. I was like, oh, okay. So we started talking about what a timeout was. And the kid, the one that was punching his head, why would you write a song about a punishment? I don't get it. Why would you write a song about a punishment? So we had this beautiful, amazing conversation around how you can actually, what really is a timeout, and how you can repattern your whole beingness around a timeout, because a timeout really is about stopping, slowing down, and being in your joy, and like finding out what your joy is. Something's telling you something that doesn't feel right, right? And that's why you're anxious and other people around you are anxious. And so for you to like stop and slow down, block out that noise of your head that's like making you go in a direction you don't want to be going in. It was so magical. I taught them the song, and you could have heard a pin drop as they're singing it completely in unison with me. And as soon as the song ended, it was just this beautiful peace. This is a classroom of like 20 second graders. And they were just, the peace that came over that classroom was something that I will never forget.
Not only does it cross ages, because as you said, yes, if it can be for the 4 to 7, but you've had older kids to teens to adults to seniors, right? So it crosses age groups, but it also crosses cultures, right? Because tell us more about your trip to China. Because I understand,
Yes.
I've seen the pictures and the videos of you in China where you're like, okay, they probably don't even understand what you're saying in terms of self-confidence and I can do it, what the words mean, let alone the actual meaning in terms of self-empowerment and so on. So how did it go over there?
So I was invited, thank you for bringing that up. I was invited over to Beijing to speak at a creative arts therapy conference. And it was really to talk to the teachers and the administrators and that kind of thing there. And I presented there, and then a year later I presented in Hong Kong, and I taught workshops in both Beijing and in Hong Kong to show them the concepts. And you're right, I actually had I had translators and in both places so that they could really understand, the teachers and the speech pathologists and occupational therapists, and they were from all different walks of life that were part of it. And so it was translated for them, and they really embraced it. This was also geared towards these particular educators that I was talking with, worked a lot with kids with special needs and autism. And so I'm not sure if you're aware that kids with autism are different in the way that when they get something stuck in their head, it's a traumatic loop that happens over and over again. They don't know how to stop that loop. So what this does is it is actually something that can help to replace that negative loop with a positive loop.
Wait a minute. So in terms of autism, right, and in these autistic kids, and they're adults obviously as well, are you saying we can see significant improvement in?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh.
So what it does is, because of the philosophy of it, it's like get a song stuck in your head, right? And it's really that simple. It's like boost up and build up the energy and enjoy what you're singing and saying and playing with, right? And that becomes the thing that when you're not feeling your own, you can remember, oh, I felt good when I did that. And it can show up when you aren't in the right place, and it can help you. Like Ginny, the woman who was 90 years old, she was in excruciating pain. She was done. And what showed up? I am confident.
So
it
many
shifted her
opportunities
thinking to what she wanted to feel. What's that?
I was looking at, I love language, and things pop out in my head. I was actually looking at the word confidence and confide, and we start breaking down the word like fide, F-I-D-E, and in Latin, con means together. So, when you start tracing back like the word confidence, it means to have full trust in Latin, to place trust, to have full trust. So, and it also means genuine. So there's a lot of power in the word confidence, and when it's lacking, because all words have vibration, especially if we're not present to them in our speech patterns. And what you were talking about with like impressing them into the subconscious enough so that when you need them, they kind of bubble up to the top, and trusting that stuff's going to happen. It seems like it all plays really well, because when I was doing my trainer certification, they did a lot of what's called accelerated learning techniques, and it was really fast, but they were experiential type of things. And they just said, just trust that it's all making it in, because at the right time, it will all come to the surface when you need it. It sounds like that's exactly what you're doing. Is a lot of the things I did in my trainer certification is, it might not be fast, right? But accelerated learning techniques where it's like you shake up the state, so everything's kind of perturbed and moving like an hourglass. It's like, because when an hourglass is like stagnant, it's really, there's not a lot of movement, right? So you kind of like change the state, perturb, and then kind of impress upon the subconscious, get it down in there, and then just trust that it's all going to come to the surface when you need it. And it sounds like that's even what your testimonials were telling you. It was like, it just came up. I wasn't even thinking about it. It just came up when I needed it. So I want to really acknowledge you for developing that system. It sounds awesome.
Wow.
Thank you.
Ruth, I know people are interested in learning more. What's the best place for them to get more information on you and your program?
Ruth@selftalksongs.com is my email address, or selftalksongs.com is the website. There's a lot of information there. I'm on YouTube. I'm not really on YouTube yet, but I guess I am on YouTube. I'm on YouTube. I am Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. You could find me.
So if people want to bring this to their school as well, they can connect with you, because again, I see this as be really curious to see the impact. And even just talking about it, you can already think, yeah, it makes sense, but I just wish I had something like this as a kid. I mean, I started singing at age, I want to say age 4. But it was, duck, duck, waddle, waddle. I remember singing that. But what did that teach me other than saying and duck, duck, waddle, waddle? I'm like, wait a minute. You mean instead of singing Mary Had a Little Lamb, we could have been singing I Am Confident? Like,
well, so here's the thing. What happened to me, I actually, again, reverse engineered and said, wow, one of my favorite books when I was a kid was The Little Engine That Could, right? Did you guys read that book?
Yeah.
I believe so.
Okay. I asked for it to be read to me over and over and over again, where the mantra that the little engine had when it was going up the hill was, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can, I know I can, I know I can. And then when it comes down the hill, I thought I could, right? So that became something that I had no idea that was something that years and years and years later, this program was generated from that, and from my changing my can't to can, and it just showed up.
Well, I have your book right here, and I know this book, the curriculum, and it comes with access to online portal with all the videos and MP3s, and you can buy a multimedia kit as well if you want more songs and things you can print out. But I understand you have a new coloring book and activity guide as well. Can you share that? I don't have that with me. Do you have that with you?
No, I know. I got to get you a coffee. So yes, I'm very excited. I just launched this from Amazon, on Amazon, and it's I Got This, which is one of the songs, and it is a empowering coloring and activity book for kids, and I had to put in ages 1 to 101 because it really is. So the book basically has
all the messages,
coloring the messages in there, and then the back half of the book. Oh, here's one of the other ones. And then in the back half of the book, I have activities. Oh, we'll do the hippity happy birthday one. So little activities. Oh, that's still the coloring. I'm sorry. There's some activities. Fill in the blank, word searches, all kinds of different things. So it's really exciting. It's a lot of fun. And I'm doing a bonus where if you send me your Amazon receipt, I will send you the cover song. I will send you I Got This. and you will, as a bonus and a couple of other surprises. And so email me.
That's a nice win there, Ruth.
What's that?
That's a great win you came up with. I gotta tell you.
I got
email
this. Yeah. Again, everyone, selftalksongs.com.
I'm on
You
there
can go
right
there
now.
to learn more about the program and the curriculum for homeschool parents, for teachers, for school systems, and for now it sounds like assisted living centers, centers for autistic kids. I mean, there's so many different applications for this.
Right. So I'm rolling out the Self-Talk Songs for Kids program first, and then I've already got people who have been saying to me, I want a program for adults that I can bring it into school, into hospitals and other areas.
Wow. Check it out, guys. I can vouch for Ruth's passion, definitely in helping kids, seeing her videos. Ruth's actually come to North Carolina. We have a song that we wrote. We got to finish that song. So much to do. Ruth, thank you so much for being a part of Rock You and the Rock You podcast.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, guys.
Amazing, Ruth. Thank you
Pleasure
so much for
being
being
here.
here.
All right, take care.
Thank you.